Alright guys, Simon here, and today for Minecraft Design School we have a submission from Richi. So let me just... So I think that's what he wants us to look at first. Unfortunately it's night time. So let me just read what he says. So he says, okay, this is my first creative world where I want to build my first city. Before I was trying to do something like that in survival and I actually never built anything, so the design is what I'm concerned about. So he's a creative builder, probably doesn't have the patience to do it in survival, as he says. Although that's fair enough. After a long search, I found a spot that I like, and that I find big enough. So he specifically chose this place to build his city. And he says, I started with a lookout tower on a cliff, that's what that is, by the shore where I suppose the city's harbour will be placed. Then, as I thought that a harbour of a big city should have walls, I started to make a round-like construction which turned out to be a prison. I'm not sure I like the sound of that, because what he's describing is, okay, first I thought of one thing and then halfway through building it I changed it into something else. That's what he says. Like he was gonna have a harbour, but then he made a round thing and then he turned it into a prison. I mean, this is... I guess if you're just playing around you can do this, but if you're... if you want to be serious about designing things, you can't just say, oh, I made a shape, okay, I make it something else. Or then I'll change my mind, make it something else instead. It's not really, it doesn't sound like you're seriously designing if you're doing that, right? I mean, if you're gonna build walls around the harbour, then build walls around the harbour. Why are you... Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Well, I guess I am. I mean, if it's fun for you, I mean, if you're just having fun, you're just designing, you can do that. I mean, no one's going to stop you from playing however you want. But, if you want to learn how to design, you need some discipline, right? Because if you just change your stuff halfway through, you're not really... Like, if you set out to design harbour walls, and you end up with something else, you didn't really learn to design harbour walls. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, if you want to kind of learn and improve, you need a little bit of discipline. But then, having said that, if you just want to have fun, maybe discipline is not fun. So, I mean, again, you play survival or creative, it's up to you, right? As I say to everyone, I mean, I find survival fun. If you find creative more fun, then play creative. I'm not going to stop you. And again, like, if you want to just make shapes and then change your design halfway through, and if that's more fun, then you can do that, by all means. But if you come to me and ask me how to be a good designer, I have to say that, you need some discipline if you want to be a good designer. Anyway, let's not dwell on that too much. So the first thing he says, so this is the very periphery of the city I plan to build, a lookout tower. It might resemble to a lighthouse and a prison. So that's the lighthouse and that's a prison, I guess. Number 1, the tower. As the tower is on the edge of a wannabe cliff, I decided to make columns as a foundation to support the tower. We can see that, right? So we can see that there's the cliff, there's the tower, and then there's the foundation. So he's got these things going on, right? Personally, I like it, but I would like to know what you think about it. I made those columns lines in a square shape so that the circle-like tower would stand out. Yeah, I see that. So you got the circle base and then the square base and the circle tower. About long columns, it's structurally unlikely in the sense that it's kind of dark. How do I make it daytime? Hold on. Haha, the magic of cheating. Okay, now it's daytime, it's not raining, that's good. So long columns, they tend to buckle. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So if you have a short column, then... Look, I don't know how to explain this. Basically, if you have imagine if you have a straw, and you push the two ends of the straw together, it'll buckle, so it'll kind of, bend outwards and then it'll collapse, the straw. Or if you have a ruler, I'm playing with the ruler right now. If you push, don't break your ruler, but if you push against the ends of the ruler will start to bend, right? And if you push harder, it'll break. You don't have to break it, but it's going to break, right? So when you have a really long structure there and you push on it, which is what gravity's doing, right? It's pushing down against the ground. It'll bend and it'll break. So columns like this, in real life, chances are all these things will just bend and break, and the whole thing will fall over. That's what tends to happen. And so when you have long columns like this, what should I do? I should just kind of imagine if we have blocks in between. So if you kind of put blocks in between like that, what happens there is then the things they hold on to each other, or they brace against each other, and then they're less likely to buckle because now all the columns are acting together. So now it can't actually. Imagine if you kind of push down, it tries to buckle to the left. Well, now that I've kind of put the blocks in between them, they all hold against each other, and so then it's much less likely that this thing can buckle that way. Does that make sense? Whereas here, if you push down on that one, it might just kind of buckle that way and then bend and then snap and then the whole thing fall over. So that's real world structure for you. I don't know if you care about that. As you say, it looks pretty interesting, but usually you won't have really, really tall columns like that. Usually they'll either be shorter, or maybe the inside here will be filled in so that they're not actually relying on the columns for the structure, you're relying on the whole wall for the structure. Anyway, that's just a thing. Again, it's Minecraft, you don't have to make it realistic, but anyway, that's a structural lesson for you guys, if you're interested. B, I tried to follow your advice that you gave to another player, and I chose material that fits the environment, but I'm still not sure if it looks good enough. Well, I don't know if it's good enough neither, because it's up to you really what you want it to look like. He says, what did you say? He says, I chose materials that fits the environment, but I'm not sure if it looks good enough. Well, see, here's the question that everybody struggles with. Like, what looks good? How do I define looking good? So you've got stone, mostly stone, on the base and on the body, and then up top you have wood, and then you have these colors. Like, do you want it like that? You can ask yourself questions like, what if the top was grey as well? What if the whole thing was just a grey tower? Or what if the top and the bottom were wood, and then the middle was grey? Or you can test these things out. I don't want to spend too much time here building, but if you imagine we replace these stone bricks with wood, because the thing is, if you want something to stand out, obviously you need it to be a different color from the things around it. So what you need to do is to decide what you want to stand out. Like, do you want the base to stand out? Do you, like, when you look at it from a distance, what is the problem? Or what do you think might be the problem? Is it because you can't see a certain thing that you want to be able to see? Is it because you can't tell the difference between the base and the body? Is it because a certain part of it should be more interesting but it's not? Is it because a certain part of it is too interesting? See, is that better? What I did there is I turned that line there into wood, so now that line becomes more prominent, right? And then you can see, so now there's a line between the body and the base, and so is that better? Maybe. See, what if we have less wood up here? I'm just gonna try things out, right? I don't know if this is good neither. But what if we... Oh, there's torches behind here. Let me not worry about the torches too much for now. Let me just change some of this stuff. It's often when you make drawings, and by extension when you even design anything in real life, you might have outlines and then fills. So if you draw a cartoon, if you draw a face, you draw the circle for the head, and then you draw the eyes and you draw the mouth, right? And that's a cartoon face. So you're basically drawing the outlines, and maybe you might shade the inside, maybe you might, give the face a color, and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is, you can use different materials. You can differentiate between the outline and the fill. So you might want to make timber outlines, and then like a stone fill, and that way, it will look like, you've marked out the the shape of things. Do you see what I mean? Outlines and fills. You've kind of done it there. You've got the outline and then the fill, as it were. Although then, you can use different materials to draw lines. For example, if there's a doorway there, you can change that into the dark wood, and then it will look different from a distance. You can see, oh, there's a door, and then maybe there's an outline for a window. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. There, you've got the stone walkway. You can see it from all the way from the distance, right? And then you have the nether brick, which is a completely different color. So you have two lines against the grey background, but then the grey itself is a line against the blue of the water and the green of the ground. So you see, you've got these lines against the shape. And here you've got, the outlines and then the fill, and then I just turned that into an outline. So maybe just think about that, like, what do you want the outlines to be and what do you want the fill to be, and then just make that consistent. So if we're gonna say, the stone can be the fill, and then the wood can be the outlines, then you might, change the material so that you're drawing the lines with the wood, and then filling the rest of it with the grey, and then that might make it more consistent, make it more interesting. Like before, what you had was stone, and then wood, and there were no outlines for each part. Like it was all stone in one part and then all wood in the other. And maybe that then, you can't. It's difficult to tell what the shapes are because there's no lines to point them out. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It's kind of difficult to just say this and then not really explain it, or not really show it. Let me just try changing some of these stairs down here as well. So often with a building you'd kind of outline the top and the bottom, because that's the top and the bottom of the building, right? I mean, okay, unless you try it, or unless you kind of see it, it's kind of difficult to explain why that's important. But once you do, then you have the top and the bottom, and that's actually quite important. Oops. Because the bottom of the building is where it meets the ground, or where it meets the foundation, and the top is where it meets the sky, as it were. See, then there, I mean, it's not very good because I'm just kind of doing this on the spot. Maybe you should kind of clean that up. But see, now there's a line between the bottom of the tower and the beginning of the foundation, and so now I've separated those two shapes into two things. I mean, maybe you don't want it to be separate, or maybe you do. So if you want to separate those shapes, and if they really are different things, maybe you should. Then you kind of put the line there. Maybe you make other shapes as well. Maybe we decide that these slabs might be wood as well. It depends. So then by cutting them up with those lines, then you can see the shapes from a distance, and it makes more sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let me just move on. C. The greatest concern for me is the top of the tower that seems too big. Well, the top of the tower is not actually too big, if you look at it. I mean, the diameter of the tower is that much. The diameter is actually not too big. What the problem was is not that it's too big, it's too different. You had the whole tower in stone, and then the whole top was wood. It's not the size that's the problem. It stands out because it's a different material. So, I would, yeah, I mean, you should probably experiment. I don't want to just say, okay, do this and everything's fixed, because that's not how you learn. You learn by experimenting. But if you want me to give you a hint, the hint would be have wooden outlines and then stone fill, and don't put more wood down here like I have, and then put more stone up there, just so that the whole thing is consistent. So you don't have all wood in one part and all stone. I think that would be better. Again, there might be reasons for you to make it all wood in one part and all stone in the other. But here, I don't think you have a reason. And I think if you just wanted to look like a complete tower, you wanted to look interesting from a distance, and you wanted to look clean, then you want to do the outlines in fill, as I said, and then keep that consistent throughout the whole tower. I knocked out some torches up there, so it probably looks better than that. Or it's supposed to. Okay, let's move on. He says, please don't mind the bridges, they're only for experimental uses. I was wondering about that. Like, why is there like half a bridge? Interesting. Alright, so then the next part, let me scroll down a bit. The prison exterior. On the exterior sides, I tried to follow a pattern, but I guess on the front side, let me just set. Oh, time set 1. Okay, so on the exterior sides I tried to follow a pattern, but I guess that the front side should be different. But I can't find anything adequate. I thought of a little lookout post for the prison guards who could see who is coming. Please, any ideas? Well, I don't. It seems okay to me. On the exterior side I tried to follow a pattern, I guess. I mean, okay, that's good. I mean, it's interesting details. The front side should be different, but I can't find anything adequate. I would just say that, I mean, this is the front. I'm assuming this is the front. If this is the front door should be more noticeable. Maybe a different color, because you've got that a different color, although it's from the ground, it's really, you can't see it. So it just looks like bits and pieces up there, which is a little bit strange. It's like it's not a complete line, as it were. See, the problem here is, look at that. That's supposed to be the front, right? It's all grey. But when you come down to the sides, we have grey and brown, and even a different stone as well. And then come to this side, there's grey and brown and different stone, and then some vines. And then we come to this side, more vines, and grey and brown. Like, you see how this is actually... Oh my god, the rain. Who likes rain? Everybody who likes rain... No, don't. I don't. Rain. Anyway, okay, rain stops. Like, if you look at that, that's actually visually more interesting than the front. Mostly because this is all grey. Mostly because I think you just need more colours. So, I mean, I would work on the front door if that's important. It probably is important. So the front door maybe should be a different colour and maybe more interesting. I mean, I don't think you need any help making things interesting. I mean, you've got all these patterns and there's different materials and patterns and all these shapes. So I think you're capable of making things interesting. I think the front door just needs to be a little more interesting. Maybe have it stick out a little bit. And then, as you say, what do you call it? A lookout post for prison guards. So maybe like a, you mean here, right? Like a balcony of something, where you can have like guards up here to watch people coming in. Yeah, sure, a balcony. So, on these sides, I guess, do you have like a balcony here or not? You kind of do. Like you have a window here. No, these are cells, right? No, I see. I mean, you have all these interesting shapes out here. You see how that sticks out a little bit, and then that recesses in into a window, and then that sticks out, and that recesses in. So I mean, you're fully capable of making all these interesting things. I mean, that defines the window, right? And that defines the roof, and then that there defines the difference between the two levels. You see how you're using all these shapes to kind of to highlight the different parts of the building. So you can do that. I don't need to tell you how to do that. Just just do a similar thing with the door. In fact, do more of it at the door, because whatever if this is your main entrance, then it really should be more interesting. I mean, don't be afraid to take up more room. I think just make it stick out up to 3 blocks. I think you can afford to do that. Have the front door like that. I'm not going to design it for you, but I think like just what you say is probably Right, I mean, you've already talked about a little lookout post for prison guards, which is, I'm guessing, like a balcony. Maybe like a extended doorway out here, and then have the top of that be the balcony. Can you see that? I think so. Yeah, I think you're on the right track there. And then B, I'm also not very sure that the shape and dimension of the prison aren't overdone. Wait a minute, the shape and dimension aren't overdone. What do you mean by overdone? You're overdone? You mean you worry it's too big? I worry it's too small. To be perfectly honest. Okay, that's okay. Then we have chess. Okay, that's cool. That looks pretty cool in the interior. Alright, let's see what's going on here. So you've got all these little details highlighting different parts. Okay, I don't know what that says. Interesting. So you've got like a barracks sort of thing. I don't know why there's 3 doors going into the same barracks though. Anyway, there's a library. I can't read that sign. Not that we know what it says anyway. And then here we have like a, what is that, like a mess hall. There's a kitchen, there's a cake. There's cake in the prison. This is the best prison ever. Alright, and then up here there are the cells, I see. So I'm not very sure that the shape and dimension of the prison aren't overdone. No, I don't think it's overdone. In fact, I think it's, you can afford to make it. I mean, I don't know if you should make it bigger or not, but I think it's a decent size. And the shape of it, no, the shape's fine. I mean, you might want to make the roof a little bit more imposing as well. At the moment it's just a bit flat, right? I mean, it's just a cylinder. I know prisons aren't supposed to be very flashy. I mean, it's their prisons supposed to be, quite oppressive and stern and serious places. But maybe the roof can be a little more interesting as well. Just maybe have it stick out a little bit, just to cap the top of the building and say, this is the top. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's what I think. But if you're worried that it's too big or too interesting, I don't know what overdone means. I think it's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be a prison, as it were. Sometimes buildings get repurposed. I mean, it's like a fortress. But I mean, remodeling a fortress into a prison is quite usual because fortresses itself are highly fortified and secure, and so you turn that into a prison. It's quite easy. So buildings change purpose. I mean, you might say that, okay, it used to be a fortress, but now it's become a prison. You can do that. You can say that, or you can pretend it's like that. And I think, yeah, it's fine. It looks like a fortress. It's a prison. It's similar things. It's not like you're turning. I'm trying to come up with a good example. It's not like you're turning a. Actually, they turn palaces into prisons. During the French Revolution, they turned the palace into a prison, which is, I mean, they're making a statement there. Of course, they're against the old royalty, the old monarchy, and they turn they turned their palace into a prison just to make a statement, which is kind of funny. But so that's kind of unusual. Usually you don't do that, but fortresses in the prisons, you do that. I think that's fine. He says, "See, what could I possibly do with a roof of a prison? I thought of a little tower, but I already have one really close, so that seems pointless." I don't think you need to do too much with the roof at all. Why not just, have it like a castle, have it stick out a little bit, and then just have a flat area on the roof? I don't see any problem with that. I mean, you might decide to leave an opening in the middle. Maybe have like a skylight, as it were, so it's not completely closed up. Maybe have some openings, so you can have some natural light coming in as well. That'd be nice. But aside from that, I don't have that as a problem. You don't have to have. I mean, usually this will be security, so you have guards up here, watching, and then if anyone tries to escape, make a swim for it, you kind of shoot them dead with arrows, right? Usually the rooftops of prisons are patrolled by guards, so maybe have like a lookout area, a patrol area. Skylights would be nice, I think, and then yeah. How do you get up here, by the way? Do we need a staircase up here or something? I think we do. We've got some interesting stuff around here, but there's no access. Like, there's no way to actually... Oh, is this it? Nope, no, that's not it. So maybe a staircase up here, and... I don't know where'd you put the staircase, though. You might have to figure that one out. Probably... at the front? Not much room, but maybe at the front, staircase up. And then place for guards to watch people trying to escape. Maybe have a skylight there. Yeah, you don't need very much. That seems good to me. And then what I think I could do is use the prison as a connection point for the walls of the harbor. But I made the wall on one side and it seems not tall enough. What height should such a wall have? That is an interesting question. Well, first of all, I don't think... Look, if you want to make... I think the walls are okay. I don't understand why that's not tall enough. Anyway, a connection point. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. We can do that. You might want to decide how you're gonna get from one side to the other, though. The size of the walls. That seems fine to me. I made the wall on one side and it seems not tall enough. What height should such a wall have? That's a strange question. Look, maybe you can look up some of this stuff in the real world. Maybe I should try to Google some things. What if you go into Google image search and type in harbor walls? Maybe try that. Excuse me while I do Google harbor. Please don't crash. Harbor walls. Because, there have been fortified harbors in history. Most harbor walls aren't very tall. Not very good though, because these days harbors are just to stop waves. Oh, here's an interesting one. Most harbors these days are just to stop waves. They're to stop when there's a storm. They don't want waves to come in and smash all the boats. Let me go back to Google. I'm trying to think of. I don't know harbors good enough. Damn, we are testing my architectural knowledge. So most of these walls are not very tall. The thing with harbors is, if you're thinking about stopping an invasion, you just need to stop the boats, right? If soldiers are coming in on boats and you can stop them there, that's kind of good enough. If they're swimming, then it's difficult for them to climb any height of wall if they can't reach up and climb out. It's very difficult already. So if you're thinking about security, you don't have to make them very tall. There's some images here, not very many though. Let me put in Istanbul. I don't remember if Istanbul has interesting harbor walls. The Google images aren't that great. Harbor walls are also difficult to maintain over hundreds of years as well, because the waves are constantly hitting them, and they kind of fall apart after a while. Like if a storm comes in, then they fall apart, and then there's usually not much point rebuilding them. I'm trying to remember if there's any good harbors in the world with decent walls. What if I take out the harbor and just go Istanbul walls? Istanbul used to have, back when it was Byzantium, and then before that Constantinople, the walls were quite famous. They held off the Muslim invaders for a very, very long time, until eventually they invented cannons, and then they used cannons to smash the walls of Byzantium. The walls of Constantinople? No, Byzantium it was at that point. And then they changed the name to Istanbul. So these aren't harbour walls, these are more land walls. That's not... Oh, here's one on the water, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean... Depends what you want to... I think that's fine for me. If you want to make it taller, you can. I don't think you have to, though. Again, like if you're trying to stop an invasion, there'll need to be... I mean, if they're coming in... Depends like what time period you're really thinking about. If they're coming in on ships with cannons, then they need to be thicker more than taller, really. If it's just to stop... if it's just to define a harbour area and stop, storms and waves, then they don't need to be really that tall. They can just be like that. I don't really know. Where are you going to put them anyway? So you've got the bridge there, you got the harbour there. Are you going to close off all the way to there? I don't know how big you want to make this. I think more important than the height is the thickness. I think harbour walls really need to be thicker more than taller, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think the height looks fine. Alright, let's just move on. Interior, okay, I actually walked in already. This is actually the hardest thing for me, okay? You seem to have done okay. I tried to make the entrance a little more open and then make a small interrogation room, but it seems too small and very useless, doesn't it? Okay, so that's cool. And then, is that the interrogation room? It does seem a little bit strange. When I walked in here, I thought this was just the reception. Like you have a guard on duty here, and then if you're not supposed to be here, he'll kick you back out. I just thought this was just the reception, and it is a bit small. See, here's the thing. Like before, you say I'm not very sure that the shape and the dimension of the prison aren't overdone, and then here you have rooms that are too small. That's why I said before I think it's actually too small, even from the outside. And when you look at the inside, I think you understand why. I mean, you say it's too small and very useless. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit small. So I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I wouldn't. The thing is, if you need to make it bigger, you're gonna have to demolish a lot of things to change this at this point. So maybe an interrogation room is not right. Maybe a reception is better. I mean, if you want to make some of these spaces bigger, you're gonna have to change quite a lot of things. Cool tables. Yeah. Although, having said that, there's a lot of space up here that you haven't used. And conceivably, you can move some of these things up here. I mean, does the library need to be there? What if you move the library somewhere else, maybe up here? And you can expand this room, because what happens is you can have the entrance in here, reception, and then you can have this area as prisoner processing. So you kind of take all their stuff and put them in storage, and then give them their prison clothes, as it were, and then assign them to a room. And you can the security search. Maybe you can do a search all their cavities for smuggled goods. And then you move them in, so you have like a search room and a storage and a security room and all that. So you can put that there, I think, and then move them through. It's a little bit strange to move them through the storage, as it were. If you have a prisoner coming in, why'd you do that? You probably move them around and move them to the cells. Maybe do that. B, if we follow, there's a storage room without a roof, which is on purpose. I kind of like the idea that all the prisoner stuff goes into those chests. Yeah, that's right. The roof isn't there because I thought a surveillance room somewhere inside of the prison can oversee anything that happens in the prison, but as I was trying to make it look cool, I made some support columns. That take too much space, and a possible surveillance room wouldn't even be able to control all this place because of them being in the way. What to do with those columns? Undo them and put something in the ceiling. That's possible. That's possible. I mean, you might actually the columns. I mean, look, just because there's columns, it doesn't really mean you can't see things. I think actually what we can do, maybe we can just make the columns thinner. Where's our... I'm looking, and look, there's the fence. Why is the cobblestone wall here but the fence here? Somebody call Jeb and tell him to fix that. It's in the wrong category. Maybe we can make that thinner? I mean, a column is not a problem because you can see around columns. Oh, actually, that might want to be brick again. Maybe I can just put that back. Maybe just make it thinner? It's a little bit thin, to be honest, but maybe that's okay. Like most columns you can see around. If there's room, if this is a security point, and you can see around, you know, just because there's a column there, it doesn't really mean you can't see past it, right? There's a door there. Imagine you can, move it a little bit, move a little bit. You can kind of see things. Maybe just make them thinner, and that's good enough. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Maybe. Okay, you decide whether you like that idea or not. It's too bad we don't have the stone brick fences, because the cobblestone are a little bit out of place, but it's still okay, I think. And also, the so-called surveillance room can stick out a little bit. I don't know where you want to put it actually. Okay, that's wrong. I mean, you can have it stick out a little bit so that the guards actually walk. The guards actually can walk out a little bit. But if you do that, then you can't see down as well. See the? I mean, in the prison, obviously the ideal prison is where the guards can see everything. But you actually build a prison, you can't do that. So there's always blind spots everywhere. But I mean, if you have guards patrolling the corridors and you have a guard in the central location, then between them they can see everything. So maybe that's all right. If that makes sense. So that's an option. So I have a little balcony out here they can walk out into as well. So then, you don't really have the columns covering up too much. And then C, I tried to make some logical placement of different rooms, but it never works out. As it is now, I don't like the idea of a library being so far. The prison would need to go in front of the guard's chamber to reach it. I had too much space in the end on one side, so I decided to put a library there. The room's placement just doesn't seem right as smooth enough for me, so I'd like to know if it makes you feel the same. I thought the library was strange as well. I honestly do. I really do think, have the prisoners have the entry, the processing area through here. The library maybe above here. Oops. Maybe above here or above here. If it's above here, it's a little bit strange, because then if this is the guard post and then the library's back here, it's a little bit odd. It's like you want to separate the prisoners and the guards, as it were. But yeah, maybe the library can be kind of up there or up here. Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit strange. So think about that. Have the processing and then the library somewhere else. You seem to know a lot about prisons. I won't. Okay, I'm not suggesting anything. Have you studied prisons before? You seem to know all the parts quite well. And also, you seem to understand the importance of surveillance quite well. But it's good. It's good that you understand what you're doing. And if you don't know something, then maybe you've done the research and you understand how prisons work. It's actually you actually have all the parts here, which is quite good. Again, you're having trouble fitting things into spaces. And going back earlier, I think if you made the whole thing a bit bigger, you would find this a little bit easier. But It's probably a little bit too late for that because you have to rebuild the whole thing if you just make something bigger. So I wouldn't do that. I just kind of finish this now, and then the next project maybe you start off something a little bit bigger. So that's all the questions that Richi has. I think I've covered pretty much everything here. Again, if you guys watching this has anything interesting to add, by all means, leave some comments. I mean, it's not just me. It's not just me, who has ideas. Obviously, everybody has ideas. Not all ideas are good. Not all of my ideas are good. But it's always good to share. As I said, if you have 100 ideas, it's easy to find one good idea. Whereas if you have only one idea, that idea might be pretty bad, and you just never know. So it's always good to get more ideas, because eventually you'll find a good one. I think I'll end it here. So this is the beginning of a city, apparently. So there's a bridge there. I'm guessing the harbour is somewhere there. And then there's some stone pillars. So maybe he's thinking of building the city here. We need to load those chunks because we're seeing through the mountains. I'm not entirely sure what his plans are because... Oh, there's a mountain I see. Oh, I see. Maybe like a town around here. Maybe like a castle on the hill. Maybe that's what he's thinking about. It's like a town on the hillside. And then like a fortress, maybe. That'd be cool. Look at that. Although, if the harbor is that big, the city might be a lot bigger than that. Anyway, I'll stop speculating. And, right, I'll end the video here. Interesting stuff. And it's good to see that you're thinking about all these ideas as you're designing too. It's good. Alright, any more questions? Feel free to ask them. Any ideas? Feel free to leave comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. This is SCKChui's Minecraft Design School. You send me your questions and your save file or your server IP address, and I will give you architecture design advice and feedback. See the video description for more details. Seriously, you should read the description before you send me anything. Thank you.